Both Daniel Cormier and Cyril Gane seem to think that the French heavyweight is going to give Jon Jones a tougher time than Francis Ngannou would have. Seems like he's just going to have to come back and show them how it's done. But until then, let's look at why Daniel Cormier thinks so. First up, he thinks that Gane presents more of a stylistic challenge. Very few men can say that they know Jon Jones like Daniel Cormier does. He's faced him in the octagon several times, and in turn, has known him for most of his UFC career. Because of this familiarity, we can see that while Ngannou versus Jones falling apart was bad news for the fans, it's bad news for Jones too. Think about it.
Champion, former Strikeforce heavyweight champion, Alistair Overeem.
Not a lot of people burning up Mick Maynard's phone to try to get a matchup with Ngannou. Oh, goes the win! Francis Ngannou has arrived! Paging Stipe Miocic. Francis Ngannou is coming!
Boom! I mean, just perfect on the chin. Shut him completely off.
Ngannou mainly threatens opponents with his knockout power in wrestling, while his opponent is a different story. As I said earlier, the Frenchman is a monster. He'll present more of a challenge for him in terms of style. Someone who agrees with me is a UFC legend. This is what Daniel Cormier had to say about the bout. As someone who's faced him in the octagon, Cormier knows that Jones plays like a stationary target. His movement is limited to moving forward and using his long limbs to maintain the distance. This, in Cormier's opinion, won't work with Gane as he's someone with impeccable movement. And you won't believe what else DC said. He went as far as to call Jones flat-footed. Can you imagine that? One of the best fighters in light heavyweight history is called flat-footed. All I'm saying is DC should start getting in shape to back up those comments. Anyway, the UFC commentator said the former champion possesses most of the skills that Jones has, but has an advantage in movement. That's one area where Jon will have trouble with him. On top of this, because of his loss to Ngannou, he's probably sharpened up a lot of his skills for this fight. This is something that even Cormier took notice of because wrestling is one of Jon Jones's biggest weapons in the octagon. In light of these comments, the Frenchman came to his own rescue. Cyril Gane had a lot to say to fans on the internet who claimed that the returning champion will be able to out-wrestle him. The #1 contender in the heavyweight division told media outlets that his loss against Ngannou does not say anything about his wrestling skills now. And it's obvious that this has pointed out quite a few holes in his game that he's been working on in this camp. I'm sure he's going to give Jones quite the welcome. Gane maintained that this time, he's also become a well-rounded fighter. Speaking of, guess what his strategy for the fight is? To top his other comments, he's already said he plans to keep the fight a stand-up affair while trying the ground game if it gets to that. I don't know, but that sounds like a dude who's not too keen on wrestling his opponent. Maybe he hasn't learned that much from his loss, because keeping this going could be worse for him. After all, Jones is known to be a prolific striker, and with all that weight on him, the punches are only going to get heavier. Even after all the smack against Jones, Cormier did say that his fighting IQ is unparalleled, and that's where he presents a threat to everyone else. What's more, Jones is training with Henry Cejudo, who in DC's words is a brilliant fighting mind, and that Jones going there is a very smart decision. I guess we'll find out on March 4th. And we've already got a contender for the winner. How about that? Having discussed these things, let's hear Stipe Miocic and his reasons for looking out for the fight. The UFC heavyweight division is honestly too excited to have Jones back. The second the fight was announced, Stipe Miocic let his thoughts be known about it. Miocic versus Jones was also almost a thing, had Jones not failed a drug test. He said that he's excited about Gane facing Jones and that he wants to fight whoever comes out on top. And there's no doubt Stipe is going to be a difficult matchup for the man who wins on March 4th. Coming off a loss against Ngannou in March 2021, Miocic is still considered one of the greats in the heavyweight division. I mean, the man defended his belt 3 times in his first run. Now, all this talk about other fighters fighting Jon Jones might lead you to think, why isn't Jones fighting Ngannou? Well, while most fans know that Ngannou was out for some time with an injury, it's not why he was sidelined this past year. In fact, when Dana White announced the Gane vs. Jones fight for March, he revealed that Ngannou was sidelined for wanting too much from the UFC. To elaborate, he clarified that the amount the Cameroonian was offered was going to make him the highest paid heavyweight in UFC history. Yes, he was getting more money than even Brock Lesnar. I know you must be asking yourself just one question. Why did he turn it down? It turns out Ngannou wanted better payouts. What's more, he wanted a chance to be able to help make the crossover to boxing with the UFC's help. The Predator wanted to fight boxers like Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder for bigger payouts. And obviously, it's not something Dana was very happy about. And while I understand that, if you have people like Jake Paul making so much money off of big boxing matches, then why can't Ngannou do the same? I mean, the guy only had to escape a mine in Cameroon and travel all the way to France in the worst of conditions to get where he is. No biggie, right? At this point, I know you're confused. Dana has no problem with it as long as he fights with the UFC, right? Well, not entirely. Dana's problem with UFC guys switching to boxing is separate. After McGregor made the switch to fight Mayweather, it really opened up avenues for entertainment-style boxing and for fighters to earn a lot more money than they usually can. Now that fighters like Tyron Woodley and Ben Askren are losing to YouTubers, I can understand why Dana wouldn't want his guys to do this. It's not a good look for the UFC or its greatest fighters. This is Francis Ngannou. It's not like he's going to lose to someone the fans think isn't capable of beating him and tarnishing the UFC name. This is the Predator we're talking about. But it was said that Ngannou wants to take less of a risk, fighting lesser opponents for a bigger bag. Which seems fine to me, but also seems like it's not true. Like, I get that Jon Jones is the GOAT, but ain't no way Francis Ngannou's turning that fight down because he doesn't want the smoke. The question remains though, will we ever see that mega fight? Honestly, I don't know. With the way Ngannou left the UFC, I don't see it happening. But it could be that Ngannou goes around Bellator, goes to boxing, shows Deontay Wilder how it's done, and then comes back. Dana did tell the media that Ngannou will be welcome back whenever he wants to come and fight. I hope it happens because he was a treat to watch. The man was very rightly crowned the king of the heavyweights, and I'd hate to see him go out vacating his title. So, these were Daniel Cormier's thoughts on why Cyril Gane is stylistically a more difficult match for Jones than Francis Ngannou. Sound off your opinions in the comments section below. See you in the next video.